Hello, everyone. So, I would like to welcome you all to episode 1 of the Mother Drive. And I am Kate Matthews, and I will be your host. So, who am I? I am basically just a mom out here in her car, but also I'm currently a content creator, a life coach, and a community builder, I would say. For the last not the last 15 years, but previously I spent about 15 years of my professional career in fashion. And then after becoming a mom, I transitioned to tech because it was flexible and easy to mom life. And I worked from home, which is amazing. This past February, I quit my job to go after my dreams, and here we are. So, I just want to say that I created this podcast because I wanted to host conversations that were inspiring and motivational and uplifting for women, and to do it while driving around or pulled over, in this case, in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. So now, without further ado, I'm here with our first guest, Mia O'Malley. She is a social media content creator with a focus on advocacy for plus size parents. Mia's an incredible leader in the body positivity movement and also a super mama to her 5-year-old Ivan. Mia, thank you so much for hanging out with me in the car today.
Hi, Katie. Thanks for having me. It's a real honor to be on your first episode, and I'm so excited for all the things you are doing to create community for moms who need it. And I'm really happy to be here.
Okay, so thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it because that is truly the mission, is to create and build community among moms. But I brought you on the show because I really, really felt that you were the perfect voice to talk about body acceptance postpartum, especially given your work in the advocacy space for plus parents, and also because of your own personal journey through motherhood. And, this episode is totally devoted to, loving and accepting your body after giving birth. So let's get right into it. So, Mia, you get home from the hospital with Ivan, and tell me a little bit how that felt for you when you walk in through this door with this brand new bundle of joy, and here you are.
Yeah, I had a pretty awesome pregnancy. It was the first time that I really felt like I had to advocate for myself as a plus size person, and I feel like I did so really well. I had a doctor who was really supportive. I had an induction, and then I had a vaginal birth. And that went great. It felt awesome, felt empowering. I never felt more confident in my body. But about 5 days after I gave birth, I came down with a uterine infection, and I had to be hospitalized for that, and I had to be separated from my baby. So that really threw things off for me. When I felt like I had just gotten started, and it made me. It felt very strange to have someone like living inside me for so long and then be separated from them for not too long, but enough that it felt it was really like hard for me to process. But the thing about that was I went into like breastfeeding. It caused me to go into breastfeeding with a fervor because I really didn't want that separation to have messed with the vision of what I wanted, how I wanted to feed my baby. And so I really went back into it with a fervor. And looking back on it now, like 5 years later, I feel like I didn't need to like help hold on to it so hard. And like it really became a mission for me to breastfeed. And the reason I bring that up is because I spent a long time seated and almost totally stationary breastfeeding my child. And with a hunger I had never known. And also like not really able to like move my body around as much as I wanted to, especially breastfeeding as like a plus size person with larger breasts is, is very, as with a newborn, is like very like challenging. It's challenging anyway. It's like a further challenging that way. And the reason that I bring this up is because in those months when I was breastfeeding, I gained about 30 pounds in the first 3 months of my postpartum. And I hadn't really gained weight much during my pregnancy, and to gain that weight so fast in postpartum was really challenging. It was like really hard to get used to, especially as someone coming from, years of working on my body confidence, accepting my body, accepting the body that I lived in as a plus size person. And then to gain so much weight in a short amount of time, I was like, well, what is this? Like I was pregnant. I wasn't pregnant. Now I'm 30 pounds heavier. I didn't even fit into clothes that that I was wearing during pregnancy. And so that sort of put another layer to the get your body back sort of messaging that we hear in postpartum, or the get back into your pre-pregnancy clothes that we hear. And it sort of helped me shift a little bit. I also saw myself in a category of clothing. So when I was pregnant, I was around a size 16, 18, somewhere around there. And then postpartum, I was like in a size 20. And the thing about a size 20 is it's usually where clothes drop off, right? So like I might have been able to go to a particular store. I was now sized out. I loved, buying these particular pair of jeans. I'm now sized out. So it really changed the way that I looked at myself. It changed the way I looked at society and like culture and things like that, to understand like how many people are kind of disenfranchised just by sizing out in a certain area. And that lent a whole new sort of way that I looked at my body, and then the way that I looked at like the society that I lived in, the system that I operate in. So much of my postpartum, like so much of everyone's postpartum, I think diet culture is like super, super entwined with postpartum. And I think that having these challenges really caused me to sort of take a critical lens to what I was participating in and what I didn't want to participate in terms of the get your body back, the go in your pre-pregnancy clothes, the stress yourself out until you can feel like the person you were before you had a baby, which is totally not something that you should be forcing yourself into. Also, the whole rhetoric around breastfeeding is going to help you lose weight is pushed by so many doctors, so many lactation consultants, and just society as a whole, when it's actually very much not true. Many women gain weight when they breastfeed. It's quite normal to retain fluid when you are breastfeeding because you are, your body is supporting another human. So anyway, it caused me to reflect on a lot and have a critical lens for like what the system is in place in postpartum, which is so dysfunctional, not just even about body size, but also just in general, the lack of support that we have, and the very damaging messages we're given in postpartum. So I feel really honored with my postpartum experience. I learned a lot, and I also took to social media and started talking about these things. And that's how I ended up founding Plus Size Baby Wearing, which is basically, I wanted to wear my child so I could better continue our breastfeeding relationship and just get around with a baby that was very high needs. And I didn't see myself represented in baby wearing. The tutorials were not appropriate for my body because they weren't, like the carrier wasn't suited to my body, or the way that the model was wearing the carrier wasn't suited to someone with a larger bust or someone with a larger waist. So all the things that I wanted to see, all the community that I wanted to have, all the messaging that I wanted to have. I said, well, if I don't have it, I'm going to make it myself. And so I did that. I made it myself. I found the people, you know, and as soon as I spoke out, people were like, yep, me too. Yep, me too. Yep, me too. And I'm like, okay, like, we're just not getting that messaging. We're not getting it, but the people are there. The experiences are there. And that's sort of how I built up a community on Meow Mally, at Meow Mally on Instagram, and at Plus Size Baby Wearing on Instagram. And yeah, that's kind of the very long-winded story of my postpartum and how it sort of shaped my my advocacy now.
I think that's truly amazing. And there's something really valuable there that's like, hey, I'm having this experience and no one's talking about it. And I know I can't be the only one out here having this experience, because a lot of the things, like regardless of your size, a lot of the things that you were saying about breastfeeding and just about that snap your body back messaging, I feel like myself in my own journey, like I'm bringing Declan home from the hospital. I mean, I just remember like being like, wait, like I can barely walk here, and because I had a vaginal birth, and no one told me this was happening. And also, like, I still look pregnant, and I was not like I wasn't even anticipating like, oh wait, like I still look like I'm literally 8 months pregnant. And it's all of a sudden these alarm bells started going off in my mind, and I was like, you know, you see people that are, you know, 6 weeks out and they look like they never had a baby. And I'm like, that's what I thought was like what was supposed to happen. And I was like, well, I don't look like this at all. And so I was very shocked at just even the physical appearance of my body, just a few days postpartum and even 6 weeks postpartum. And I was just, you know, I remember taking Declan to the first doctor's appointment and barely being able to walk. And literally in my mind, I was thinking, how am I getting back to where I was? Like, that should not be a thought in my mind. Like a few days out, and it just shouldn't be on my heart.
And honestly, what's so sad, I'll tell you this, you were the first person that I had ever heard talk about diastasis recti. Like, you were the very first person I had heard talk about it. And the fact is like most people who are pregnant like need diastasis recti therapy. They need pelvic floor therapy. They need this assistance. And especially and not to bring it back to plus size people, but plus size people especially get completely like don't hear about it at all, because we already have a belly, you know, all these things, but like we have an actual abdomen that needs repair and has gone through trauma. And honestly, you're the only person I had heard ever talk about it for the first time. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, why don't I know about it? Because I don't know. It's just, I was really happy to hear you talk about it. I'm happy that more people are talking about it now, but we need to go further. We need to go further. I mean, immediately postpartum, people should get referrals for PT. Like,
yeah,
it just should
happen. Should be like, honestly, pelvic floor therapy, like all of the therapies, because I know that in Europe, it's all women go and do pelvic floor therapy after having a baby. It is like literally a requirement that they do. And we're like here charging a gajillion dollars for women to do it. And we don't even know about it. Like, women have to find out somewhere. They're like, I have a real problem. And then some other woman will be like, is this your problem? And you'll be like, yeah, that's my problem. I'm, you know, feeling weak in my bladder, or I'm whatever it is, you know? And it's kind of like so you need to like figure that out with like a pelvic floor therapist. And women around here it's becoming better. But 10 years ago, you know, it was like, what's that? And
what is a pelvic floor therapist? Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And so I don't know. I feel like the snapback culture of like, get your body back here, be this body that you were before. And I keep saying, and I've heard you say this too, about like, that's just not the same body anymore. Like, you've given birth, and you have a new body, and embrace that body, because that body, needs to be loved and supported, and you need to have gratitude and understand that this body has housed and birthed a human and supported another life, really.
Yeah.
And
And that body needs to do more things now, more things that you weren't doing before. And I think, and I feel like we've talked about this before, but I always say, like, to people, a lot of people ask me, oh, like, where did you find maternity clothes when you were pregnant? And the fact is I wore a lot of regular clothes when I was pregnant.
Yeah.
And maternity clothes, by and large, are ugly, are expensive, and just like a waste. Imagine if we put the focus on what is going to feel the best, be the most functional, be the most comfortable postpartum wear. Like, what do you need for postpartum? What kind
100%.
of clothes? Dress your postpartum body for what it needs to do, because it needs to do incredible things. Breastfeeding, not breastfeeding, all the activity you're going to be doing with your baby. You need to be comfortable. You need to feel good. Your body has been through a trauma. Like, you need to dress and feel good in your postpartum. And I wish, and if moms are listening, or people who are like trying to conceive, or people who are pregnant right now, if they're listening, take that money that you were going to spend on maternity photos. You know what? Knock yourself out. Buy a maternity dress for your photo shoot. Do that. Baby shower, fine. But take whatever money you were thinking you needed to spend on maternity items, put that towards your postpartum, and think about what you're going to wear, and how you're going to need to be comfortable, and how you're going to need to be functional, and dress yourself for the mom life that you are going to have, because that deserves its own time in the sun, its own special care.
It absolutely
does. I feel strongly about that. I wish that more brands marketed it that way, because then we wouldn't be so focused on like, oh, I need to go fit into this like peplum dress that I wore. Like, most of the stuff that you're gonna wear, most of the stuff you're gonna be trying to wear, like, go fit into your pregnancy, it's not even gonna be like, you're not even really gonna want to wear it. Like,
oh my God, Mia. So listen. So I bought this dress that I was gonna wear home from the hospital, because I was like, I want to take pictures, like, right after I have the baby. Me. I was like, this dress, this is gonna be great, my 28-year-old self. And I pull this dress out of my bag, and I'm like, I can't fit into this dress. Like, this is
also
not
like, I don't know who this is. Like, I don't know this person.
Also, this person here is wearing a diaper, bro. Like, and I am leaking, and like, there is all this stuff, and this is just, I didn't feel like, I was like, this is a new body for sure. And I kept trying and working to figure out why it wasn't going back to that person previously. And I remember I was trying to breastfeed. I had a really hard time with breastfeeding. I couldn't produce the milk, but I was stressing myself, and I was like, I have large breasts. Why should I not be able to breastfeed? I'm like with the lactation consultant. I'm eating oatmeal cookies. I'm doing all the things, and nothing was working. And I wasn't losing weight. And you know what I'm saying? Like, and instead I was like feeling like I was gaining weight, which is exactly your experience. And I was like, hold on for a second. They told me that I would lose weight breastfeeding, et cetera, et cetera. And I also had horrible postpartum like feelings from stressing myself out over breastfeeding so much, because I was guilting myself, saying, oh, you're not a good enough mom. Like, your body can't do this. And it's just like, no, that's not it at all, and let go. Like, if you can't breastfeed, that's okay. It doesn't make you a bad mother. It's fine. Like,
and honestly, even if you can, it's hard. Like, it's hard. It's hard. It's painful. It's it's just hard. And I think that's like that's another thing that happens is like as you like go through pregnancy and postpartum and after, you just are like, oh well, that was a lie. That was a lie. That was like all the lies that we're told. I'm like, oh, that was a lie. Oh, it's just like constant discovery of like, nope, this is not at all what people said, you know.
No, it's not. There's so many things. And so, yeah, if you are a mom out there listening, I would say just don't worry about the weight. Like, worry about how you feel as a mom and making sure you feel like healthy and you are enjoying your season in motherhood. Listen,
And find your people. Like,
find your people,
it doesn't
100%.
need to be a lot of people. You don't have to have all these friends. I know that, you know, the whole pandemic sort of cut like threw a wrench and all of this, but when you can and when you can, find your people.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
up to someone. If you see someone, can I give you my number? I just had a baby too. You know,
Yep.
and I have friends still to this day that were because I said, hey, how are you? Like, how's the baby? You know, I was out with my baby and I gave them my number. And also, if you see someone who's earlier, like, you know, you're a little bit ahead of them in terms of like the age of your baby, you see someone, I remember going to a coffee shop and it took all the might that I could to get to this coffee shop that was even just like across the street from us because my baby would not go in a stroller. He was screaming, crying by the time I would get there, just in a 5-minute walk. But I had a mom that was sitting outside and she was on a laptop getting some work done. And she held the door open for me and she goes, don't worry, it's going to get easier. And like immediately I started bawling. I'm crying now just thinking about it.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
Yeah. And then I did get there and it did get easier. And I was that mom on the laptop having a little coffee by myself before I had to go and get the baby. But pay it forward, you know, and if it doesn't happen for you, be that person for someone else. And it will bond you together. And that energy that you put out, you know, you really do. Motherhood is extremely isolating, even in the best of circumstances. And you really do need even if it's just one person, you need that.
Yeah, I never knew. I remember looking out our apartment. We lived in Battery Park City at the time. It was probably 4 o'clock in the morning. And Declan, you know, I had just gotten up to feed him. He finally like fell asleep. I couldn't go back to sleep because, you know, I had to breastfeed to try to I was trying to pump to stimulate. So I'm sitting there with like the pump on, just me. He's asleep. And I'm just looking out this window into the pitch black. And I had the phone in my hand. And I remember like just writing like a post in like a mommy's group. Anyone else awake? And people started pulling up in the comments. And I was like, it's not just me. It's so hard. It's so, you know, and in that moment I realized no one talks about it, but it's lonely out there if you can't find your people.
Yeah. And I, you know, we might get some like angry comments about this one, but I'm sorry. I don't care if your friends don't have kids. They don't freaking understand. They might be helpful and they might be support. And I'm not saying you leave your friends behind, but I'm saying they don't freaking get it. And you have to find another parent. You have to find another mom, at least one, because it is very isolating. It's very isolating. And your partner can't do it all either. They also can't understand everything, you know.
They have no idea what journey you're on with your body. They have no idea what journey you're on with your mind. I mean, they have their own respective journeys, granted, but it's just not the same journey as it is for a mother. But with that, I want to say, so like as these months move on, and you know, you've described that, you know, it informed like what you were participating in, what you weren't participating in, and it informed essentially what you were going to do with your life, right? In terms of your career. And so like, how did it go for you? Like, what was the turning point where you were like, I am shifting into, like, I just love this body. Like, I'm laying down the diet culture, the toxicity, like all the snapback, all the bullshit, right? And you go, I'm going to shift into this acceptance and graduate. I love my body no matter what, and I'm giving myself grace. And was that the same moment that you were just like, let me also make this my career, like my passion, my business, my everything?
Yeah, I mean, it was it was definitely gradual, but I think that one of the things that I realized, like I mentioned, for motherhood for me was like like me realizing that so much stuff was a lie. Um, One of the lies that I feel like I internalized was that when I had a baby, like my career would be over, or my career would take a back seat, or that, you know, I don't know, that I just wouldn't have as much as I had before in terms of just like my person, you know? But motherhood, I felt, and after I had my baby, I felt an incredible sense of purpose. Um, in terms of not just like being a mother, but in terms of my career, I felt creative energy. I felt, um, I felt an urgency. I felt, let's get this done. Like I felt this energy that I had never felt in my life. Certain roadblocks, mental roadblocks that I had put up for myself before just cleared for me. Um, I, I didn't second guess whether I could. I just did because I had the time that I had to do it, and I was going to do it because this was all the time I had, and it was never going to be perfect because I didn't have all the time I had to get caught up in my perfection. I had the time that I was given, and I could do the best that I could with it. And to me, that was incredibly freeing. And it helped me move a lot of self-doubt and perfectionism that stood in my way of actually accomplishing things or putting things out into the world. And so, yeah, so I think that there were lots of things that I had internalized, that things that, we just accept. And I was like, nope, this doesn't serve me. Nope, this doesn't serve me. And so one of those things was that, my career was going to take a back seat because actually there were so many things I wanted to do. Oh.
Okay, so we're back. Sorry, brief interruption. iPhone overheat in the car. One of the things that happens apparently when you are in a hot car too long. So I was saying what I wanted to ask Mia is, have women in your community have reached out to you about struggling with their bodies postpartum? And how do you? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think
you run with it.
Yeah, I think that's primarily what I talk to people about, either through DM or in posts. And what I usually say is, how comfortable is your life? Like, how friendly is your life to your body? How comfortable are your clothes? Do your clothes make you feel good? Does your partner make you feel good? Does your furniture make you feel good? In what areas of your life are you uncomfortable? And I like to say that, how we feel about our body doesn't exist in a vacuum. It is not just about how you personally feel about your body. It's how your body feels throughout the day on the day-to-day basis. And it's how the world around you makes you feel physically and emotionally. So, working on body image is not just about working on confidence and, taking fun pictures, although I do recommend taking photos of yourself, looking at them, going back, taking more photos. Even if you don't share them, I do recommend that. But it's not just about working on your confidence. It's about how comfortable you are in your life. Are you trying to fit into jeans from 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and it's not working? Like, maybe get a pair of jeans that you love, that make you feel good. Work on also looking at, like, taking a lens and looking at how your outside world makes you feel. Does it make you feel bad about your body? Is your chair at work uncomfortable? You know, all these things contribute to how we feel about ourselves and how comfortable we are. So don't just look at within, look outside. And what sort of media are you taking in? Are you only consuming Fitspo? Are you only consuming people who are constantly trying to change themselves? That's not going to make you feel very good. I don't recommend doing that. Give yourself grace in postpartum and after. Give yourself grace and patience. You cannot hate yourself into becoming something that you like. You know, you can't do that. And that's not my thing. That's whoever said that, I don't know. But, you know, I do talk about that a lot. Like, you're never going to hate your body into something that you like. So work on how you talk to yourself internally, work on the media that you're taking in, be aware of the media you're taking in, the mommy blogs you're taking in, the Pinterest posts you're looking at. Be aware of all of it, because it's all messaging. It's all stuff you're internalizing. And look into how you can support yourself in a compassionate way, because life is hard. Motherhood is really hard. Pregnancy is really hard. Postpartum is really hard. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself patience. How you feel this month is not going to determine how you feel next month. All of those things can help us in body image. So I highly recommend those. And just because, you know, the weight, if you pursue intentional weight loss, if that's something you want, that's fine. But do that with compassion, with grace, with a care for yourself, because life is hard. Bodies change. They're meant to change. We are all aging. And that's what I'd like to leave you with.
Thank you so much, Mia. It has been awesome to have my first episode with you. So I hope you all hear this, because that was some really amazing advice to take in to your postpartum season, or even just your motherhood season in general. Because sometimes you're struggling and it's 3, 4, 5 years out and still having the body image issues. So if you're there, we're there with you and we're supporting you. All right. Thank you so much, Mia. Have a wonderful
Thank you, Katie. Okay, bye. You too.
Bye.